Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining our afternoon webinar, MTDA Clearinghouse, New Digital Learning Opportunities for Montana Schools. We want to thank you for taking time to join us today, and we'll do our best to keep our presentation short and efficient. And we will have plenty of time at the end of our webinar today to answer questions, or if you'd like to schedule a follow-up with us, we'll give you a couple of ways that you can do that. First and foremost, hello from the Phyllis J. Washington College of Education and Human Sciences building at the University of Montana in Missoula, Montana, where our home is located at. As always, we invite you to come to Montana Digital Academy and drop by our offices at any time. We have a beautiful office suite in the new wing of the building on the third floor of the PJW Education Center. And before we get started, I want to introduce our webinar participants today. First and foremost, my name is Jason Knifer. Well, not foremost. Sorry, Mike. First, I'm Jason Knifer, and I'm the Executive Director of Montana Digital Academy. And joining me today, as always, Mike Augustinelli, our Assistant Director and Curriculum Director.
Hello, everyone. Happy to be here.
Again, we thank you for joining us today and hope we can answer any questions you might have and talk about the opportunities to come in future weeks and months with MTDA. A quick look at our agenda. We've got 4 topics that we want to talk about today. First and foremost, the results of the 2023 Montana Legislature. Second, we want to talk about this concept of a clearinghouse, which is the primary piece of the House bill that impacted MTDA services. Next, we want to talk about what our initial offerings in the so-called clearinghouse might look like. And finally, an invitation for you to pilot or partner with us as we work through the expansion of our services. And again, as we noted in the invitation, we will try very hard to keep this at 20 minutes today. We know that your time is finite and valuable and want to make sure we get you in and out at the 20-minute mark. And so far, we're 1 for 1 on these webinars, and we'll see if we can hit a 2 for 2 today. And with that in mind, we would certainly invite you to have conversations with us after the fact by emailing us. And the best way to do that, if you have our individual email addresses, you can certainly email us directly. If you prefer just to start off the question and get an answer back from the person that can best answer your question, support@montanadigitalacademy.org is the best place to go to get connected with our staff. And then our wonderful support team will direct your question where it best belongs to get you a quick and efficient answer. And with that in mind, we'll get started by talking a little bit about the 2023 Montana Legislature. Obviously, a very impactful session for Montana Public Schools. But we want to talk about a couple of different sets of bills. First and foremost, there were several broad education bills passed that may impact your delivery of distance learning to students across the state of Montana. And I want to note, while we're going to mention these bills today, the bottom line is that we are not the people to interpret what these bills mean for your schooling program or for what you as an administrator, counselor, principal, teacher, or a board member, how it might impact your delivery of distance learning services. We would suggest going to your professional organization, whether you are a member of the School Administrators of Montana or the Montana School Board Association, Montana Counseling Association, any of those professional organizations that are analyzing the results of the 23 session would be best to interpret for you what these bills mean for your district. And in fact, if we're asked to interpret bills, we will more often than not refer you to an attorney or SAM or the Montana School Board Association as appropriate. But the bills that we think may impact your use of distance learning, the 2021 session bill, House Bill 246, the revised education laws to enhance local control and opportunities for pupils, sets up processes for parents to ask for local services like distance learning in a model they prefer, or otherwise enables students and parents to go to other districts to be able to do that. House Bill 246, it's my understanding, wasn't fully implemented during the last 2 years, but other bills in the 23 session clarified and added some momentum to this notion of what House Bill 246 did in the 2021 session. House Bill 214 revises education laws related to remote instruction, which is now the term that refers to models like MTDA. House Bill 396 requires school trustees to admit. It used to say may, it now says shall admit resident children on a part-time basis, which could include for the purposes of accessing a program like Montana Digital Academy. And then, of course, the House Bill 549 and House Bill 562, the two charter school bills, will obviously have some impact on MTDA, although we will stay in the background of this as we are not a charter school, not set up to be a charter school, and aren't in a position to serve students directly. And that process continues even with the changes post-2023 session. And then there was one specific bill, the revised Montana Digital Academy laws, House Bill 749, represented by Lou Jones of Conrad. And it essentially does two things. The first thing it does is that it reconfigures our board. And we're not going to talk about that one in detail today. We're still working out some of the details, but our board has been expanded and includes more voices to help guide MTDA processes and policies. And then I also want to note the context of our webinar today is the expansion of the mission and authority with some funding to offer a clearinghouse model. And we're going to talk about a little more what the word clearinghouse means right now. So Mike, off to you, sir.
Thanks, Jason. So yeah, next up is the clearinghouse model. And at a very high level, what the clearinghouse concept is additional access to more services through MTDA. So as you can see from the graphic, local schools will continue to access Digital Academy services as you always have. But as part of the clearinghouse expansion, another opportunity for MTDA is to continue to work to refine the single sign-on and tighter integration process from your local student information system to MTDA services. Our goal has always been and will continue to be to make the enrollment process, the student creation process as efficient as possible. And we're really excited in the next year to make some big headway there. Once inside MTDA systems, you'll have the same continued access to the core services that we've provided for the past 13 years. And what the clearinghouse will offer is some additional resources. And so as we work our way through this presentation, we'll start to break down what those services are and some examples, some tangible examples, so you can start to envision if the offerings in the clearinghouse make sense in your district. So the most important takeaway that I want you to leave this webinar with today is that our core program remains the exact same as we've delivered it for the past 13 years. Our high school and middle school original credit courses are planned and ready to go. Enrollment's open for fall. We're excited to launch that fall semester. Summer session is off and running in 2 weeks. All that stays the same. Our credit recovery program will continue as it has under a new name of FlexCap for fall 23. More information will be coming out about that rebranding in August as we move in that direction. Our IPC, or individualized pathway courses, will continue as well as our award-winning EdReady Montana program. All of those stay the same. Access will remain the same. The processes remain the same. We will continue to deliver those services as we have for those past 13 years. Back to you, Jason.
Thanks, Mike. And before we get into some specific scenarios where we think you may want to work with us in context of the clearinghouse, we want to name what we think the advantages are to you as a Montana public school and what the clearinghouse does for you. And it's not just that there are additional services available. We now have some resources to where we can make our existing programs a little more technically relevant to districts and also provide some conveniences and more nuanced programming as the way we deliver programs. So first and foremost, the big picture is that it's a single location for a number of options beyond what it currently exists at MTDA. And as you're going to find out in a moment, there is a large number of interesting options that will be available to you as a Montana public school that didn't exist before. We'll give you some examples here in a moment, but you don't need to negotiate contracts with with a vendor. You don't need to ask about pricing. You don't need to do a demo first. You don't need to contact an external vendor. All that happens through the MTDA core program. And if you already have a student enrolled in MTDA, all it takes is a couple more clicks to engage them in other digital learning services, whether it's a full course or something much smaller or something more nuanced. Second, our goal is to provide easier enrollment and access with new integrations. And Mike mentioned this earlier, but we hope to decrease technical barriers so students can sign on. If you're using a single sign-on platform like Clever.com, for example, we are currently working with Clever. And to be clear, a lot of this is aspirational in part because it's challenging to work with some of these vendors, but we're pushing hard here to make these integrations both simple and very close. So that students can sign on from your Clever, for example, and not have to maintain another username or password. And then also for common SISs in Montana, I guess for lack of a better way of putting it, we dream of having some opportunities for you to roll inside of your SIS, or at least being able to pass student data over to ease that process. We know it can be challenging to have to manage a separate SIS, and even though we work in Genius SIS, the MTDA software every day, you don't. And so sometimes that can be a real barrier or time issue. So that's something we're working on as well. Next, new ways to support learning in your district. If you are looking at local innovations, blended learning, more digital learning, more nuanced ways to serve students in your school, you will have new options available to you without having to go out and adopt those options yourself. And our staff handles the contracts, our staff handles the vetting of materials, in order to increase opportunities for you without having to do some of those processes yourself. And then also access to our expert staff. And we are able to add on a few new people to MTDA and the Clearinghouse model. And we can assist you more directly so that whether you don't have to dig through materials or catalogs or handbooks to be able to know what the best option is for your student, you can access us and we can assist you in that process directly. And that's one of the ways, or some of the ways, we hope the Clearinghouse benefits you. It's also the start of a much longer process, I will also note, because we anticipate this will grow over time and there will be new opportunities in digitally based learning that we can offer you and your students to better meet their needs and help them achieve their goals and dreams. And with that, we want to talk to you about a couple of different offerings that we know will be available at some point in the future with the Clearinghouse and how you might apply them. Why don't you start with the first one, Mike?
Thanks, Jason. So the first up is digital learning platform and services. And so the idea here is that local schools could access digital curriculum through MTDA to use in a blended learning play. So for instance, in our example, a science teacher, newly hired science teacher, not really any curriculum around the area of chemistry, yet chemistry wants to be offered. The school happens to have a computer lab available, or maybe a one-to-one scenario, and the teacher really wants to offer a blended option where the majority of the curriculum lives online digitally, so students have access to both at the school and at home, wherever they're at. The idea would be that one of the offerings in the Clearinghouse would be vetted digital curriculum, turnkey curriculum in chemistry in this example, that you could purchase a license for your local teacher to then take and teach in a blended learning manner.
Great. Thanks, Mike.
You bet, Jason.
An example that I will talk about is one we've actually had a conversation with a number of districts with, which is offering some kind of online option for students that are looking for alternatives to traditional discipline. And the one we've talked to, I would say probably a dozen administrators about, going back to 2019 actually, is students that are caught vaping. And we know districts are paying for national options, online courses, whether they're administered by a teacher or not, And we know that's both very costly. We've seen examples as low as $49 and some examples going up to the $499 range. We're currently working on both an opportunity to take a teacherless online course for that purpose, but also we are talking to one particular large town health department about maybe expanding their services for a live vaping class, right? So that it has the advantages of a live interactive instructor without the need for students to leave their home or leave some other situation to be able to do that. And we've had a lot of really good conversations about this already, and hope this might be an example of a way we could use digital learning in a more nuanced way.
Another area that we're super excited about is this concept around short courses that lead to industry certifications. And so Jason and I have been in dozens of meetings already with industry providers that have self-paced courses that lead to industry certifications. And part of the idea here is that throughout Montana, we have a wide variety of CTE options, but often the instructor is only licensed in one area. And so, of course, the question becomes, what if a student is interested in small engines and the course offering at the local school is welding? Well, the idea is, what if the Digital Academy were able to provide access to those self-paced courses so that the local CTE teacher could still monitor, but act as more of a facilitator to help that student provide access to the training materials so that they could prep for the ASE certification test at their local school. And so again, this would be one other additional offering in a short course, teacherless or self-paced format.
And I would also note, too, we've also had some great conversations about this with private business across the state, the Department of Labor, and new CTE initiatives at OPI as well. We're really excited about this one. Mm-hmm. And then last, third-party providers. And while we believe that MTDA's core services, original credit, FlexCap, individualized pathway courses, and the Ed Ready program are really truly outstanding programs that are very student-friendly and meet lots of different circumstances, we also know that both circumstances in your school district and in some cases with individual students may not fit within the scalable program that we can offer. And so we're going to work with third-party providers to be able to offer services through MTDA's Clearinghouse. That could mean a lot of different things, whether it's calendar shifting or it's a new format or it's a live interactive course or different models from there. But what the Clearinghouse gives us the opportunity to do is provide new ways to access online courses so that you are not having to scramble if our existing formats aren't meeting your particular needs. And I think that's something that's also a real opportunity for your local school programming to access as well. So we want to last invite you to partner with us on this journey, and we have several opportunities that we think will be available. We are off to a start after July 1st in both staffing up and figuring out what this looks like in context of a greater program. But we can think of many ways that you might be interested in working with us on Clearinghouse Matters, including piloting what blended learning looks like in your particular district. The example Mike talked about, that if you have a teacher that perhaps is taking on 5 preps during the day, which is not an uncommon phenomenon at a small school for a younger teacher, and their background isn't as rigorous as you may want to be, or they may want to be, to teach a more unique class, we may be able to provide digital curriculum for you to experiment with blended learning in your local district. We can also pilot programs related to a local a program if you want to offer your own online student or classes to students and want to use MTDA platforms and curriculum. That's a piloting opportunity with MTDA. Certainly, if you have interest in the certification process, we think there's going to be a lot of resources available very soon for CTE teachers to implement a CERT prep program in your local school or district. And then, of course, any digital learning program. And I would say the sky's the limit here. And if you have ideas on how this might work, we would strongly encourage you to contact us with your ideas and thoughts. But we want to remind you
that even if you're in a spot where this all sounds interesting, but you want to take a wait and see approach, please know that the core program is ready to go for fall, as it has been the past 13 years. So all those services are ready to go and will remain that way for perpetuity into the future. So with that, if you have questions about this presentation or are interested in partnering with us, please reach out to support@montanadigitalacademy.org. We'd love to hear from you and hear from your ideas about how we can partner together. Okay. So at this point, Jason,
one other quick thing that
you surprised me. Hey,
there is an event going on. You've probably received an email about this if you're on any of our mail lists, but we are running an innovation symposium at the University of Montana in July. It's called Innovation Runs Through It, innovationrunsthroughit.com. And I will tell you, we're really excited about this because we really want to have a lot of educators in the room to have conversations about future-looking environments, whether it's proficiency-based education or online or blended learning. We also have some speakers coming in that are experts and forefront on the AI and education conversation. We have the ability to make deals if you want to send groups of teachers to this, and inexpensive university housing available, innovationrunsthroughit.com, or contact us at the support desk, and we'd be happy to talk you through this. We're really excited about the prospects of this event in July. Okay, now this is functionally the end of our webinar. We understand if you've got your questions answered or you're good to go, feel free to navigate away. You can go back to this link and it will send you to the archive of this webinar. We're going to stay on here as long as you have questions or if there's anything we can do to help clarify. And it seems like we have a question in chat already. Mike says, I believe in talking to a college advisor about early college. They mentioned MTDA might be expanding into that area. Is that part of the third-party expansion? Mike, you've been on the dual credit front for us. Why don't you take that one?
Thanks, Jason. So yeah, as Jason mentioned, we've actually tripled our dual credit offerings in the past year and a half. And so MTDA has a much expanded dual credit catalog now. We're up to 10 titles, partnering with two-year colleges from around the state, with eye on expanding even further. So those opportunities exist. I'm going to send out on YouTube here a direct link to our course catalog. Under our dual credit area, you can see a list of titles. One I'll just mention briefly, one pathway that we're really excited about. We now have a 3-course pathway for students that are interested in being educators. And so this pathway is a 9-credit pathway. If they're interested in elementary ed, secondary ed, it gets some of those core education courses out of the way while they're in high school, with the intent to jumpstart them into the teaching career. We've heard loud and clear from smaller districts that one of the factors that everyone's thinking about is how can we recruit our own families from our own communities to stay and be teachers or come back after college and be teachers. We feel this is a small way that we can help in that mission. Mike, I hope that answers your question. Feel free to follow up if you needed additional follow-up.
And I would also add to that too, the Montana University system has been working really hard to open up opportunities, whether it's a school-based opportunity with your teacher teaching a dual credit class or college capacity to offer classes to high school students, and of course the expansion in MTDA. We're really excited about that and feel like it's a really great opportunity for Montana students.
Sandy, as a follow-up question, she asked if a student takes a dual credit course through MTDA, is the high school still charged the cost share fee? We have worked that out with OCHI that no, currently we are not charging any cost sharing fee. And that's to work within the 1-2 free process, right? So on the college side, if it's within their first 2 classes, it remains free. There is no cost share with MTDA. The caveat I would give, though, of course, is that cost should not be the deciding factor. Readiness and making sure they're set up for success. Of course, the dual credit course is geared towards junior and senior students. There's a rigor that's there, obviously, as it's a college course. So just be mindful of the fact that that's the intent there, but there is no cost share associated with those dual enrollments.
Thank you, Mike. And again, we'll stay on here as long as there are people on the webinar. It looks like we have 17 live folks right now. We're happy to answer questions. We'll take song requests. Mike doesn't mean karaoke, but we'll go from there. So. I didn't mean to create an awkward silence there, Mike.
Oh, no worries. Actually, as we're waiting to see if any other questions come in, one other thought or thing to mention with dual credit is by the nature of these courses, there are typically enrollment caps on these courses. So if you're considering that, I would highly recommend that you review the catalog and get those enrollments in early. We had great usage this past year, and I expect that to just grow. We're doing our best to add additional teacher capacity to these dual credit courses. But as you can imagine, with licensure and all of the education required to teach these courses for high school teachers to be able to teach these courses, it's complicated. So get those enrollments in early.
Thanks, Mike.
Oh, Jason, there's the request. School's Out, originally performed by Alice Cooper. Luckily, that's more in Jason's wheelhouse than mine. He'd be happy to take that one.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. So as people just start precipitously dropping off the webinar.
I don't know. The numbers might start rising, Jason.
Carrie asked a great question. Will these changes bills be effective in fall 2023? There's 2 answers I'll give to that. The first one is related to that first column of bills I talked about, which are the ones that impact kind of the bigger picture of distance learning. And yes, those do go into effect as of July 1st, I think, on all these. As I'm sure you've been reading in the papers, the charter school bills, one is apparently being challenged in court, and then I read an article the other day suggesting that that there will be a lot of time here of to be able to get to the charter process in either of the bills. So those ones might be delayed just simply because of the infrastructure involved. Related to MTDA, the 2 changes do start on July 1st, the board changes, and also the expansion of authority for the clearinghouse model. Our biggest question mark right now is really capacity to bring on those changes. Mike and I've spent a lot of time with our staff looking at this, thinking through it, being thoughtful about implementation, but we're still a bit off before having services. That said, again, if you have thoughts about a pilot for this fall, we are in a position to do so, maybe able to work something out with you, especially if you have a specific idea where you think we can help. So don't hesitate to contact us, even if your idea is far-fetched or a little out there, because we're kind of in far-fetched and a little out there mode right now. So that's where we believe we will have some opportunities. And thank you for all the nice comments in chat. Yeah. We so appreciate our relationship with Montana Public Schools. And really do appreciate our work with all of you. It's the people that make this job so great for us. The question from Whitehall is, thank you for the information. When do you intend to select third-party providers to partner with? That probably has more to do with how fast we can get staffing aboard. And also, one of the things we're charged with in House Bill 749 is the vetting of content. We are having conversations with purchasing and what that might look like in order to clear people for the clearinghouse. But what I would say is that MTDA's core programs remain open this fall to provide, I would say, most needs in regards to those pieces. And as we are able to bring on other providers, we absolutely will. One question related to the vaping courses. Are those currently viable, or are they a work in progress? They are a work in progress, but what I would also say is that it's relatively low-hanging fruit for us. So we've already had a really good conversation with a large county health department that's interested in working with us. And this is something that Mike and I have actually been thinking about since we first started hearing from administrators in 2019. So I anticipate this is one of the areas where we're going to have something open sooner rather than later. Thanks, Mike. Good to see you here today. See, we still have 8 live viewers. We'll continue to hang out here, which is what is apparently turning to the Mike and Jason show. I even have my my more radio microphone today. So good afternoon. We'll give this one more minute, and if we don't see a question, we will shut this down. Okay, well, we thank you for your attention today and hope to talk to you soon. We hope you have a great rest of your school year and a wonderful summer. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.